All right, so the first video in this series is going to be focused on organization of your lifts when you're in the weight room. Essentially, there's traditionally two thought processes behind how you organize your lifts. We have your traditional muscle group focus, right? Your back and bi day, your chest and tri, et cetera, that bodybuilder mentality. And then you have your movement-based focus, which is traditionally more on the strength and conditioning side of the house, right? You've heard your push-pull days or something like that, hinging and squatting. And these both have their perks and they both have their drawbacks. Obviously, the drawback of the muscle group training is that you're not focusing on the movement in terms of fatigue management. And then you have the same drawback with your movement-based training, right? You're not considering the muscle or focus on the muscle when it comes to fatigue management. So I take a third route. It's a route that I guess would be specific to how I view exercises and how I've organized them, and it seems to be pretty effective for me. And it takes into consideration both the muscle group mentality and the movement mentality. Most importantly, when I take the route that I'm about to present to you, it always comes back to understanding the definition of what we're doing. So the overall purpose of any exercise is to stimulate the body, right? This is in and outside of the weight room. The reason I'm doing the exercise is to get the body to have a response to that stimulation, hopefully a positive response. And from there, I get the adaptation, the result that I want, right? So with this fundamental understanding, this true understanding, this is where my process for exercise organization comes in, right? And so I base exercises off of their level of stimulation, right? So this essentially moves away from body part focus, movement focus, and puts it into a hierarchy focus, right? So what is the most demanding, most stimulating exercise I can perform in the gym, in the weight room? And then what are its submaximal counterparts all the way down to the least stimulating, right? I put them in order. I put them in a hierarchy, the most demanding to the least demanding. Again, this is the reason I do this, it's preference. It's a better way to manage fatigue. I'm taking into account both muscle and movement, but most importantly, I'm taking into account how stimulating that movement is on the body. And you'll see when we get to how we design a program and how we design a layout, taking on this mindset makes it really, really easy to plug and play your training so that you can make something in a very quick manner. You can make something efficient, but also very potent, very effective. So with that, how the hierarchy is established, all exercises can essentially fall under the three king exercises, right? And then when we hear this, we automatically can think of a powerlifting mentality, but it's imperative to understand that this is not a powerlifter mentality per se. This is just recognizing and understanding the most demanding exercises we can place on the body in the gym are the squat, the bench, and the deadlift, respectively, for the whole entire body. The second thing we can take from the squat, the bench, and the deadlift is that every single other exercise that we can do in the gym, every other lift we do in the gym can fall under a submaximal variation or a complement to one of these three major movements. So not only have we established what the ultimate most stimulating, demanding exercises are in the gym, we are able to categorize all other exercises into one of these three lifts, right? So your back squat is complemented by lunges, leg presses, split squats. The bench press has your incline bench press, right? Overhead press, dips, all these submaximal variations that complement the most stimulating exercise, right? So essentially, we can give an example real quick. The barbell bench press, right? The closest cousin to that major, most stimulating exercise would be like a barbell incline bench or a dumbbell flat bench. And then the most distant cousin would be its tricep extension, right? We establish this hierarchy here from the barbell bench all the way down to the tricep extension. And this is how we can organize exercises. This is a great way to understand what's the most bang for our buck, right? If we can use the most stimulating exercises, we can have the most potent results. And then they're also a great self-assessing tool to determine where you have lacking areas and where you need to spend time developing, right? So if a particular part of your squat's falling apart or your bench or whatever, you can add the associated assistance exercises to help that out, right? So it's a good way to self-assess, self-manage, focus on fatigue, and focus on stimulating the body. This is not a powerlifter's mentality. So that brings us to the first question that will be in rebuttal is, what if there's limitations? What if, I mean, obviously not everyone can squat, bench, or deadlift, right? Well, again, this isn't a powerlifter's mentality. We're not doing the squat, the bench, and the deadlift for the powerlifting reason. We're doing it for the definition of exercise, to stimulate the body. So if you have an injury that's limiting you, you have simply a lack of equipment, right? You're stuck at Planet Fitness, or you have a beginner that you're coaching, or you're a beginner yourself and you're not comfortable with these large exercises, just remember the purpose, right? Find what is the most stimulating, demanding variation in each of these three movements that you can do confidently, that you can do without pain, and that you can do repeatedly so that we can create a progression. That is where your hierarchy starts. So if you're at Planet Fitness, right, you don't have a barbell and a squat stand, so maybe the leg press is the most demanding exercise you can do, right? Maybe the back squat is hurting you. You have an injury you're coming off of, and you can't back squat, but you can handle some heavy dumbbell goblet squats. Well, there's where your hierarchy starts, right? So it's very easy to modify these limitations and still have a hierarchical focus, and keeping that focus very demanding, very stimulating, and still extremely organized for the entire body.